Mitch McConnell did it again, and Bernie Sanders just called him out. So let's discuss the details of exactly what is going on. But before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so if you could do me a huge favor, click on the link that's in the description of this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my second channel. I'm actually going to be giving away a stimulus check as a thank you on that channel just for supporting my work. So on this channel, we talk about Social Security changes and the fact that President Biden has promised to increase Social Security payments. So we currently have Democrats proposing increased Social Security payments and 2 more stimulus packages. And Bernie Sanders recently came out firing at Mitch McConnell. So let's see what he had to say. Then we'll do a quick recap on President Biden's plans for Social Security benefits, as well as the next stimulus package.
The senior senator from the state of Vermont, Mitch McConnell, is not just Kentucky's senator. Until a few months ago, as you all know, he was the majority leader of the United States Senate. And my God, I am so delighted that today he's only the minority leader. And by the way, we owe that to 2 great Senate candidates in Georgia. And what they did in Georgia, you could do in Kentucky. But Senator McConnell remains today, as minority Republican leader, the highest-ranking Republican elected official in the country, a man with enormous power. And what I want to do now, which I think as a nation we don't do enough, is to simply compare Senator McConnell's ideology, his Republican ideology, his votes, his actions, and his vision for America with the progressive vision for America. Now, the question I think that people should be asking is, why is Mitch McConnell doing what he does? How does it happen that Senator McConnell, representing a struggling working-class state, is working overtime to block legislation that would improve the lives of so many working-class people in Kentucky, while he is doing everything that he can to make the richest people in America even richer? How does that happen? And the answer is pretty simple. Follow the money. About it. Over the course of his career, and by the way, Mitch McConnell is not alone in this. I don't want to suggest for a moment that he is unique. Many Republicans doing the same, and some Democrats do as well. But over his career, Senator McConnell has received huge campaign contributions from Wall Street banks like Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, J.P. Morgan Chase, from health insurance companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana, from pharmaceutical companies like Eli Lilly and Pfizer, from fossil fuel companies like Koch Brothers Industries and Marathon Petroleum, and of course, from Walmart and the NRA. And what do these huge corporations and special interest groups have in common? Why is this such a significant issue? And the answer is they are united in opposing raising the minimum wage to a living wage. And surprise, surprise, so does Mitch McConnell. These corporations oppose guaranteeing health care to all as a human right. So does Mitch McConnell. They oppose taking any significant action to lower the outrageous cost of prescription drugs in America. So does Mitch McConnell. They oppose passing any legislation of significance to combat climate change. So does Mitch McConnell. The NRA has given over $1.2 million in campaign contributions to Senator McConnell, and they oppose virtually every piece of gun safety legislation that has ever been introduced. And what do Senator McConnell's campaign contributors support? They support huge tax breaks for the rich and large corporations. They support deregulating Wall Street, and they strongly supported the Wall Street bailout.
So Mitch McConnell continues to try and block the increase in Social Security benefits. He continues to try and block the next infrastructure stimulus package. And he just continues to be a huge issue when it comes to anything stimulus or social program related. Now, Bernie Sanders came out firing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This was actually a speech that Bernie was doing in Kentucky, which is where Mitch McConnell is a senator. So he is firing on his own home turf. Now, with Mitch McConnell only being the minority leader, he doesn't have as much power as he used to. So we do expect Democrats to get a lot of this done. We do expect to have larger Social Security benefits. We do expect to have 2 more stimulus packages. So we should have a lot of updates, guys. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. I will keep you posted as soon as we have that increase in Social Security payments and these next 2 stimulus packages. Now, in regards to the next stimulus package, we do have some problems. And after this, I'm going to talk about Social Security as well. Do a quick overview of President Biden's plans for Social Security. But in regards to this infrastructure stimulus plan, we still have a couple of problems in the way, mainly how we're going to pay for it. Mitch McConnell wants to raise taxes on the middle class by increasing the gas tax and increasing tollway pricing on highways. Biden doesn't want to do that. Biden wants to do that by taxing the rich. Mitch McConnell also has an issue with Democrats including social programs as quote-unquote social infrastructure. Things like that monthly child tax credit for families and even potentially a $200 per month stimulus boost for Social Security. So let's take a quick look, see a recap of what's going on with stimulus negotiations, and then we're going to talk about Biden's plan for Social Security benefits.
Everybody in Washington claims to love infrastructure. That is to say, they are happy to spend some additional federal dollars to improve the nation's transportation and communications networks on which so much of the economy and so many jobs depend. So, a question. Why is it so hard to come up with an agreement on a big plan to improve the nation's infrastructure? President Trump attempted to do that repeatedly and never got the kind of big package that he had hoped for. Now President Biden is going to do the same thing with an even more ambitious infrastructure plan, which he unveiled in a speech in Pittsburgh.
What I'm proposing is a one-time capital investment of roughly $2 trillion in America's future, spread largely over 8 years. It will generate historic job growth, historic economic growth, help businesses to compete internationally, create more revenue as well.
He hopes to pair that infrastructure plan later in the year with a second package to improve the nation's healthcare, childcare, and education programs. Put them together and you have what candidate Biden and now President Biden calls the Build Back Better agenda.
I'm proposing a plan for the nation that rewards work, not just rewards wealth. It builds a fair economy that gives everybody a chance to succeed. And it's going to create the strongest, most resilient, innovative economy in the world. It's not a plan that tinkers around the edges. It's a once-in-a-generation investment.
But it starts with infrastructure, and as the administration moves down this path, it's going to encounter the 2 big problems that stand in the way of an agreement. The first and most obvious one is that the 2 parties can't agree on how to pay for improved infrastructure. The bill will be large. The Biden administration is going to come forward with an aggressive tax package to raise tax rates on corporations and high-income individuals to pay for this improved infrastructure. Now, Republicans don't oppose raising some taxes to pay for the infrastructure improvements, but they don't like the general across-the-board approach. They're more drawn toward targeted tax increases, in many cases targeted at people who benefit from the improved infrastructure. For example, raising the federal gas tax, the traditional way to pay for improved roads and bridges, or perhaps a new levy on electric cars. So there's a philosophical disagreement on how to pay for the infrastructure. Second, there has emerged a fairly large gap between what the 2 parties really mean when they say infrastructure. Republicans tend to think of the more traditional highways, bridges, airports, ports improvements as infrastructure. Democrats are trying to expand the definition considerably to include a lot of green climate energy projects, wind power, solar power, electric vehicle charging stations. Now, there's some of these new definitions where the two parties do agree. Both parties, for example, would like to spend some money to improve internet access for people in rural areas and poor urban areas. But there's a disagreement and continued evidence that agreeing in general on improving infrastructure is a lot different than agreeing on a specific plan.
So obviously Democrats and Republicans disagree on exactly what should be called infrastructure. Should it just be roads and bridges, physical infrastructure, or should it include Social Security benefits, child tax credits, funding for healthcare, things that support human infrastructure and societal infrastructure? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, Biden has been shown that he is willing to compromise. His initial proposal was $2.3 trillion. Republicans came out at about $500 billion. Mitch McConnell then offered as high as $800 billion, and Biden just trimmed it back down from $2.3 to $1.7 trillion. So this is very similar to the stimulus package negotiations that had stimulus checks, right? We went back and forth. It took months, and eventually we kind of met in the middle, and then with the last package, Democrats just used budget reconciliation to pass whatever they wanted. Now, of course, because they have the power to do 2 more budget reconciliation bills, we're hoping that Democrats will include Social Security benefits as well, because they might actually have the power to do so. Now, as far as his Social Security plan, I've talked about it many times on my channel, but President Biden wants to increase Social Security benefits across the board. First of all, he wants to tax the wealthy to make sure that Social Security benefits are funded for decades to come by increasing taxes on those who make over $400,000 per year. Secondly, he wants to increase benefits for widows. Something we call survivor benefits generally ends up with widows making less than they did when their spouse was still alive. When you think about it, it makes sense. When you have a spouse, both of you get a Social Security check. Once your spouse passes away, you are left with just a single Social Security benefit. Now, under Biden's plan, widows on average would get a 20% increase in monthly Social Security benefits. Now, thirdly, he wants to create a minimum benefit that is at least 125% of the poverty level, ensuring that nobody who's on Social Security is forced to live in poverty. Now, fourthly, he wants to increase benefits for older beneficiaries. Those who have been on Social Security for over 20 years tend to have more expenses, typically healthcare expenses, because they are older in age, and he wants to increase benefits for them by 5% across the board to help them cover this increase in expenses. Now, fifthly, he wants to increase the annual COLA benefits by including drug prices. Prescription drug prices are a massive expense for seniors, and the current COLA formula does not take that into account. Biden wants to change this. He wants to include that in the formula, which would lead to bigger COLA increases every single year going forward. So that's the highlights of exactly what Biden wants to include in Social Security benefits. Of course, Mitch McConnell continues to get in the way, but Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are calling Mitch McConnell out and putting pressure on him to no longer block stimulus, no longer block Social Security increases. And we also have Democrats who technically can use budget reconciliation to approve more stimulus and approve Social Security benefit changes without a single Republican vote, as long as they can get every single Democrat in the Senate on board. We have Democrats like Joe Manchin who are very moderate and very hard to get on board. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Biden continues to negotiate with Republicans, but in the back end, he continues to talk to Democrats as well about pushing this forward through budget reconciliation. All we need to do is get Joe Manchin and a couple of other moderate Democrats on board as well in order to get this done. And remember, we have 2 more stimulus packages coming this year. The infrastructure bill, which needs to be approved by the end of September because that is when the federal fiscal year ends, and then the American Family Plan, which we expect to be approved sometime between then and the end of 2021. And again, we're hoping Democrats still fight to include Social Security in that second stimulus package as well. So with that said, guys, we should have a lot of updates. Don't forget to subscribe. I will keep you posted as soon as anything changes on the next 2 stimulus packages, Social Security changes, and daily news updates as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. And until the next video, Take care and have a great day.